is part two of the share that we started last week, and as some of us are new and maybe haven't seen the video, I will bring you up to speed. The Gemara famously says that la'olam, forever, always has to be the case. A person's approach to doing Torah and mitzvahs always has to start from insincere beginnings, and from that you'll graduate for it being lishma. That was the idea. And we looked at the story in Rabbi Dessler, the story of Lot, and how Lot's real Nisayon was not the fact that he was incredibly moist nefesh, willing to have himself killed when two visitors come to Sodom. Having already watched his daughter tortured to death for offering hospitality, he doesn't know at this stage the Malachim. And he's still willing to go to the nth degree to do the mitzvah of chesed. So Rabbi Dessler said, but that's not the real guy. The real guy is the person who was the materialist, the guy who liked money, who realized that his brother-in-law, his uncle, and his Rebbe, Avram Avinu, was pretending that Sarah was his sister instead of his wife. A nod or a wink, which he could pretend even to himself afterwards he didn't really do, a nod or a wink to Paroi would mean that Avram would be killed. He would be the only living relative of the Queen of Egypt, and there'd be a lot of money to be made by being so well connected. He didn't do that. That was the real guy. And we saw Rabbi Dessler had said that anybody who only does the stuff that you've been brought up to do, it's called mitzvahs at Nashim Lamoda, then Hashem still gives you a reward for doing it. Although my son and I had an argument. He also watches this online in Yerushalayim. He didn't like this bit too much. And I had to show him inside the Rabbi Dessler. Then he conceded, that's what Rabbi Dessler says. Ultimately, the reward you get for doing mitzvahs, because you're brought up to do mitzvahs, it solely goes to the people who were mechanech, who taught you to do it. That's not the real you. The real you is when you fight at whatever level you're on, your own battle to achieve the right thing. But if you do it automatically, you put on tefillin automatically, keep Shabbos automatically, that's not the real you. But let's just shtel, as they say, let's just focus on this idea of the, I'm just hoping this is working, it is, yes, this new device. The idea that it always has to be that a person does mitzvahs afilu shalol lishma, right, superficially, by rote, but without it being the real you. So this is, I think, what we got to last week on page 133. It says, Choyves apanimius betkufas churban merkazi haTorah. Then what is the real reaction you should have in times when the centers of Torah are destroyed? So I just thought you might be interested in seeing this for a second, because 4 years ago, 2016, 2015, can't remember. 2016, my wife and I visited the Venice ghetto. So my translation of Shara B'tochen in the ghetto there, I was sitting there, there's 5 shows there, that's what the ghetto looks like, it's tiny. In the ghetto, the first ghetto in the world, I was sitting over there, it's just outside Chabad show, and so I finished the manuscript of my translation of Shara B'tochen, sitting over there, the second edition just came out, and in the evening I painted the ghetto, I drew the ghetto, which is on the wall upstairs. And I just thought it was so very exciting, because I now could just give my manuscript over to my printer and a Jewish book was going to be produced. In those days, that's not what happened. Every book had to be submitted to the church. The church censor, who was usually a Jew who had converted to Christianity, he would look at it and take out the bits that he didn't like. And I think I mentioned this to you before. That bit of the ghetto over there, which you can't really see, is the Jewish museum. And when I went in there, we weren't allowed to take pictures, but I couldn't resist doing it. There was a glass case with the first edition of the Rambam, and as I think I said last week, we talked about this, the censor had gone with his pen, of course it wasn't a pen like that, but you get the idea, with ink, and painted out words, redacted bits that he didn't like. And that the actual halachas just happened to be turned to the page when it's talking about the partnerships, Hilchos partnerships, and the halachas being a non-Jew and a Jew, what the halachic boundaries are, and they didn't like this bit, so they took that bit out. And so I took a picture of this skirt somewhere. When I went to visit a friend of mine called Yossi Hoch, who is a collector of ancient manuscripts, I told him the story, and he immediately brought out his first edition Rambam, which was printed in Venice. Venice was a great centre of printing, and there the censor had taken out the exact same thing at the exact same place, but different lines. Obviously, it was done by hand. But so much was had to be submitted. The Talmud is terribly heavily censored. All the story in the Sanhedrin about our version of the story of the founder of Christianity completely taken out. As I said to the boys in the yeshiva I was teaching today, interestingly, if you look at the old Torah Shulchan Aruchs, you'll find that the halacha of Roidif, when somebody's running down the street with a gun or a knife trying to kill somebody else, you are obliged to kill the guy, the would-be killer, the guy who's trying to kill somebody. So anarchy is against Jewish law. Those 4 pages were taken out of the Torah Shulchan Aruch. There's nothing that offends the anti-Semite mind so much as the idea of a Jew killing anybody or killing anything. And in actual fact, the first law that Hitler passed when he came to power was to ban Shechita, killing animals, or a Jew killing animals. Even that is considered to be profoundly not good. Okay, fine. So the excitement for me was sitting in that ghetto where, Jews were locked in at 10 o'clock at night. We were forced to pay for the guards who locked us in, let out at 7 o'clock in the morning. Everything had to be submitted to the church. The synagogues were built by the church, owned by the church. All of that, I was just sitting there, I was writing a new book, a Jewish Sefer, just hand it out. Very exciting. Here Rabbi Dessler is discussing the idea, what happens, well, let me read to you some of this. I think we started this last week. What Hashem is, I don't want to use the word that popped into my mind was up to, that sounds a bit disrespectful, but what he's planning. Can I say what he's got up his sleeve? It's impossible for us to know it, but all one thing we do know is that the Derech of Hashem is right. Right, we're Ma'aminim, and which is an astonishing thing, because after all, we're post-Holocaust. So to think that we believe and trust in Hashem, even in the face of that, takes, I don't think you can imagine any other people still being Ma'aminim after something like the Holocaust. But our Emunah seems to be so strong, it seems to be so printed in our DNA, that whatever Hashem has, we ultimately believe that that's for the good. Fine. We want to know when things like that happen, what is Hashem trying to tell us? Rav Shach said, one of his essays upstairs, anybody who doesn't ask the question, why did Hashem let the Holocaust happen? It's not a mind. Quite the opposite. In reverse, of course, the question is how can of course we've got to ask why such a thing happened. Will you get the answer? Maybe not. But generally, asking the question is that's a reasonable thing to do. What did we do wrong? So let's see. So let's consider the following question. What are we supposed to do when we live through a period or have lived through a time when the Makaimas Satira, when the yeshivas, the Rosh yeshivas, etc., are themselves the korban of the generation, go up in flames, Sifri Torah burnt, etc., etc. What's the message of that? He says, Mesiras Gedoli HaTorah V'Yira Mashpiyim Ba'Eskem, that the great leaders, Torah leaders, and those who supported them, they started to go through pain. Very much echoing the words of Rav Shach. That certainly is going to profoundly damage our belief or trust in Hashem Yisborach when such things happen. Why did this happen? Bishlama. So now we get a little Bishlama. Bishlama, there's a thumb going up here. Yisuri v'tzoras agolas boim lechaper l'marakaboinas. I get the idea, says Rabbi Dessler. We get the idea, this is the post-Holocaust generation. I get the idea that sometimes some things can be so wrong that it needs something profoundly dramatic to evoke change. And that's a terrible indictment of human beings in general, and certainly Jewish human beings too. People only started to worry about the effects of generating electricity through nuclear power stations when Chernobyl blew up. Although New York, 3 Mile Island might have evoked the same response. But sometimes it takes something as big as that to evoke change. So I get the idea we've done something wrong. We're only going to change it with something really dramatic, really drastic, gezeres tat v'tat, that sort of stuff. But if the whole idea, and we get this, that sometimes the Jewish people could be so bad that we need something dramatic in order to get us back on track. Which track? The track of the Torah. But what if the tracks of the Torah and the station that the train runs into have been shredded and torn up? What's the point of that? Okay. So he says, Ke'ein shalazeh matzina b'divrei Ramchal zechatzad l'ivrocha. I've got a feeling we did this last week. So the Ramchal answers this question, and he says, Kasher ona yodim shekol masha kadosh baruch hu oisel Yisrael hakol hu lehitiv lehem. Since we believe that everything Hashem does to us ultimately for the good, even though it's very hard to see that. But how can you understand that you go through a tekufa, then it's impossible for us, and we're not allowed to study the Torah, like through the Inquisition and many other times. Then the door to where we're supposed to be going has been closed in our faces. What's the point of that? Missing a bit. So Bia Divrei Ramchal, Mikivan Shachet HaMachshava Salveda Zorah. So he wants to say that the sin of Avodah Zorah, that's what causes a time when the Sifrei Torah are burned. Okay. Bia Divrei Ramchal, Mikivan Shachet HaMachshava Salveda Zorah Hu Chet Penimi. Since Avodah Zorah is a chet which is inside, normally, of course, the general rule is if a Jew wants to do something wrong, but doesn't do it, then fine. His account upstairs is still in the clear. Right? For all, that's the whole share in its own right, why that works. But anyway, you get the idea. But there's one exception to that, and that is it's Avodah Zorah. So if you think to do Avodah Zorah, or you think thoughts of Avodah, I can't say the thing. Or I don't know, you fantasize about Avodah Zorah, but you get the idea. Yes, that if you think those thoughts, the Rebbe Shalom considers this machshava kemaisa. So he says, therefore, Shahari etzam hamachshava nechshavas lachet, because the thought itself of Avodah Zorah is considered as though you did the actual the sin. Av tikkun tzarich liyos mida keneged mida. So therefore, putting it right would have to be a mida keneged mida. Get the idea? So if the Avodah Zorah is a thought in the heart, curing it would have to be something that's in the heart, something internal. Make sense? Tikkun panimi. Without a seal, without any help from outside at all. Now again, there is mitzvahs and oshim ilamada. That's the external stuff we do, which hopefully will become impregnated in us to the point where we actually do it spontaneously, and it is a part of us. And it should always, it has to be always that is the approach. It's the external, the superficial, the insincere, which hopefully will graduate, if you want it to being sincere. But that idea of using an external, a superficial stepping block to get to the real thing doesn't always apply. Sometimes it has to be in the inside. And we're going to talk about that more in a second. But that's exactly what we're talking about here. There can be a time, I'll read that again. Mr. Lynn, sorry. More than that, if there's something rotten inside, then a superficial, a sticking on of a band-aid, that's not going to cure something which is inside. A cut in the surface, a band-aid. Something really attacking your liver, your kidney on the inside, or your heart, that's not going to work. Let me explain this. Now this is going to scare you. Did we do this last week? Is this ringing a bell? No. It's possible for a person to live in a place like ours. A sviva of ruchnis, right? We live in a frum area. There are plenty of places I go and speak in America or all over the world where it's quite not that at all. So we live in Baruch Hashem, we live in a good area where there's everything, especially you young guys. Your children are growing up, you send them to the most wonderful schools, wonderful yeshivas, boys, girls, everything you can want. They're great kids to play with in our neighborhood, their own you've got everything you possibly want. Fine. Well, shouldn't that be the ideal? I mean, that's why we all moved here, is it not? Well, not me, because my kids are growing up, but you get the idea. Listen to this. So you can live in an environment, a time, and a place where everything is fine and equips you for everything, your children for everything they need. Everything you need is there. But being brought up in that frum environment, in that frum kehila, in frum families, it might be the case that therefore everybody's doing it because everybody's doing it. It just becomes the thing to do without being real and being internal and part of us. Because it comes from superficiality, And just because everybody's doing that, shenigra achrisiv, also people want to do what's the fashionable thing to do, but it doesn't come from in the heart. And that's a very distressing thing to read. Because you all moved here to achieve that very thing. And now he's saying that it might be, in moving to this place, that in actual fact what you're doing is you're compromising the ability of your kids to actually really get Torah and Yiddishkeit. Scary.
That comes with a risk, though.
Sorry?
If you move to the boondocks.
Oh, we'll come to the boondocks. So hold on, let them get to the boondocks. We're coming here in a second to the boondocks. Absolutely. And nobody in the right mind go down there and oh, yeah, well, this is great. I mean...
Let's challenge ourselves.
Yeah, let's challenge yourself, yeah. Avram Avinu, look, Yitzchak, wow, look what Madrega he achieved because his father tried to cut his throat and burn his body to a crisp. So what we really need is an abusive father. Right? And then I'll become we're not making that choice. Okay. So he says, his thoughts and his maisim haruchniim, the spiritual thoughts, him is only superficial. Because it comes from superficial place, because everybody's doing it. But you're talking, it's also possible. And it's possible that your thoughts are completely contradictory to what you do and how you behave. Right? You do the stuff, but you want the opposite. Fine. But you should know it. It's possible for it, obviously, from the superficial to become the real, the spontaneous, the actual. But that takes avodah rabbah. That takes hard work to turn the superficial into the real. Now the boondocks. So if you're living in some ekveld, as they say in Yiddish, and I mean, when I came from Glasgow, I'm no way trying to blow my own trumpet, but I came to Glasgow, it's very difficult to be a frum Jew. Because we were the freaks. We were the small, tiny fraction of the community who kept Shabbos and stuff like that. You're weird. But here, it's so easy. I think I told you they only had one, in Glasgow, they only generated one school, one Jewish school. It was an elementary school. It was written inside the Constitution. No rabbi is allowed to set foot over the front door. All right. Lovely. Good. Also,
also go back to Odessa's thing about where everyone has their line of where their bechira is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So if you're in a place, right, where there are a lot of from Jews, then your line of bechira is simply in a different place.
That's right.
If you grow up in
exactly. And that's what he said. That's exactly that essay where he says that is the one about Lot. That was what we were saying last week. So Lot, because rabbis Nekudas Abachir, Rabbi Dessach and Nekudas Abachir, the point at which is the conflict between your Yetzirah and your Yetzirah, and therefore you have two, because choice means two, minimum. So therefore, there's lots, we said that last week, lots of things I do automatically, right? It's ingrained in me to keep Shabbos, ingrained in me to put on tefillin, ingrained in me to eat kosher. I don't exercise choice over that. For me, it's Lashon Hara. I say that because it's not for everybody, it's Lashon Hara. And almost nothing else. But that's the point of Nekudas Bechira. So that in Lot's case, his Nekudas Bechira, fine that he did lots of stuff that was behind the front line of his good self, like Chesed, but that was a gift from Avram. That was automatically. Money was his big problem. Ours is too. See, right? So you can turn it into you, and everybody's got freedom of choice, as you're saying, where a curse is going to be different, and you would be an idiot to expose yourself so that your Nekudas Bechira, as you're saying, the boondocks starts way down there. We want to be as high up as possible. But if you live in a place or in a time where it's very, very difficult to be a frum Jew, they prohibit studying Torah, like that sort of stuff. Well, not quite as bad then. But and your enemies rule over you. And the whole avira, the whole time, is the exact opposite of Ruchnius. Think about, there's a famous story of Rabbi Yerucham, my Rosh Yeshiva told me. Rabbi Yerucham was a famous scientist who became a Baal Tshuva. Now, in the time of Rabbi Yerucham, just for the Second World War, the flow, and it was a tsunami, was the exact opposite direction. My Rosh Yeshiva said this made front pages in the headline, in newspapers, like, famous scientists like Einstein. It wasn't Einstein, but you get the idea. If Einstein became frum, what? Mad? So you can live in a time when it's like that. Im gam as, he says, if at that time Mis'ala lehisdab beruchnias. But you go up to attach yourself to ruchnias. But amuna b'Hashem is bara patarasa, and a complete conviction that the Torah is emes and Hashem emes. As bevadai avodas sopeni mishil Hashem is barak. Then of course it's the real deal. There's no alternative. Then you have to fight.
What's
Okay.
the saying of like a fifth generation communist that was just stuck behind the Iron Curtain?
None. You mean in these sorts of things? None. They know
what's his
nothing.
purpose?
What's his purpose?
Yeah.
Oh, his purpose is
Like if you experience, like you grew up in yeshiva,
right.
and then you were stuck behind Iron Curtain, you couldn't teach Torah, you couldn't
Right.
read Torah. So I understand the conflict you have. Should I violate? Should I not?
Right.
But 4 or 5 generations later, they're completely lost. They have no connection at all.
Right, so-
what would be the purpose of their?
Okay, so Asher was talking about this essay, which is in Mikta Million, and here the Caliph, I think, page 111. And this is Rabbi Dessa's famous point on this, in the Kudus of Bechira. And he says everybody has the Bechira at the point where their Yitzhara and Yitzhak clash relative to what they know is wrong. So for the guy, he gives the example of the Kudus of the Bechira is a Bechira of somebody who's brought up amongst a family of thieves. Famous story you're seeing in the USSR. Stalin's daughter famously asked where she could get whatever it was that they needed. And he said, steal it. And all the public buildings in the USSR, there were no light bulbs. Because people couldn't get light bulbs, but the public buildings had, so they would steal them. And they would bring, because they got the building, they put them up, and then again they would be stolen. So it's a system so even they don't think that's wrong. But Robert Dessler's case is, but the thief who's brought up amongst a family of thieves, what's that famous English guy? Oliver Twist, right? English character. The Oliver Twist story, he's been taught as a kid to steal. So stealing's not wrong for him. But if he breaks into an old lady's house one night and he's stealing the silver and putting it in a bag and the light goes on and she's standing there, that's where his Nakudas Bechira lies. So first of all, everybody did it, but it could be that your Nakudas Bechira is so low, should I kill somebody or not? And of course there's the other issue that maybe your tachlis here and my tachlis here is not for me but it's for somebody else. So again, Rabbi Dessa talks about this elsewhere. He talks about that really the tachlis of a Rosh Hashiva is in order to teach Torah, but for that you need Talmidim. So it might be that my tachlis is because there's a Rosh Hashiva who needs, for some reason, Yehudi on Rubinstein. Then you're providing him with what he needs, what the world needs. But you can be here not for yourself, right? So you're a minor player in the drama. Okay. So he says, okay. Inyan zeh shall siluk haruchnias ka'inish on a maitzim b'divrei hanovi. This is very important, this bit. Now this idea of taking away ruchnias as being a punishment on a maitzim b'divrei hanovi. So he just quotes it in short here, but I thought it'd be interesting to see it on the side. So this is in Yeshua Kov Tes and Yud Daled, and it says L'chein. So we're talking about Churban Abayis. L'chein hininim Yosef lahafli es ha'am hazeh. So the Jewish people are behaving exactly as he's been describing, which provokes the Churban Abayis. And that is to say that they are behaving in the outside. Well, listen to the Lashon. I'm going to do astonishing things to this people. Hafla b'fela. Really astonishing things. Va'avda chochmas chochmov, and I will destroy their chochma. Ubinas navoinas tastira, and I'll hide away, I'll get rid of their bina, their understanding. That's exactly what we're talking about. A time in which the Rebbeinu Shalom will take away the chochma of Torah. What's going on? So Rashi says here, and I find this very interesting, I was just looking at it before, of course I find this. Okay, and why was that? Because they don't serve me the way they should. It's not in their heart. It's only superficial. Good. So he says, Yan ki noga sha'am hazeh, Yonas Yonasan v'doni. That kolera. Nog shel hagbiya atzm ad l'shamayim. Vehem marim atzm machadin oise, and they make themselves look as though they're giving me COVID. Bepeh, except on their lips and their mouth. But really they're very, very far away from me. So let's go back to Rabbi Dessler. Famous pasuk. So he says, he quotes the Medrash Rabbah. Matzina shesilukol shel tzadikim kol shel lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu yosem me'me'ach dechochas chosashayim. When Hashem has to take away the tzadikim of the world and the Rosh Yeshiva, at times when the centers of Torah are destroyed. The First World War and, of course, the Second World War. The Medrash says that's worse than the Churban Beis Hamikdash. So what's the reason for it? That's what this pasuk is talking about in Yirmiyahu. There can be a time when it's all superficial. Your Yiddishkeit is superficial, it's plastic, it's just mitzvahs and oshim and moda, just because you're rogel to do that thing, that's not the real you. At times like that, that's when you're going to lose your Rosh Yeshiva. Miss a bit out. Hezbar Devarim Hu. She'im ein ha'odom menatzel es ha'mashpiyim ha'gedolim liknos b'sach atzma erochim p'nimis shel Torah. If you do not play your part to allow the Torah that the Gedolim of your generation are trying to put into become part of you. Well, I once heard Rabbi Desta's famous teacher as a Talmud, Rabbi Mordechai Miller of Greenfield, putting it like this: why do we have to lose the Beis Hamikdash? If the Beis Hamikdash is a place which is supposed to bring the whole Jewish people together, which of course it is, 3 times a year, right? And the purpose and function of the Beis Hamikdash is to realize but if at the time of Churban Basheni there is no possibility of seeing ourselves as being echad, forget as machlokas, then what's the point of the Beis Hamikdash? It's a keli. It's got a purpose. The purpose is to make us realize that we're one. But if Afal P came, despite that fact, you're going to go on and a good as and all sorts of fighting and stuff. What was the one having it? Just so it can be a building, a photo opportunity. You go to Paris, you're going to get a picture taken of the Eiffel Tower. You go to Venice, you're going to go into the Bridge of Sighs. And you go to Berlin, you go to the Brandenburg Gate, etc., etc., Wenceslas Square in Prague. But what are you going to do? Oh, you're going to Jerusalem, you get my picture taken next to that. That's not where it is. So if you're taking away its purpose, then it has no purpose. And then it is taken away. If the Rosh Yeshiva of the generation, of the Gedolim of the generation are there to make it real for you, and you will let it become real for you. But you look the part. You've got the white shirt, and you've got the black suit, or the navy blue suit, whatever it is. You look as though you're doing it. We are all penguins together. They call us penguins. We're all happy penguins. Happy feet. Afal Pekin. That's all it is. Then you lose the people who are really there to make you what you could be. Then if you're only going to be the guys who do it superficially, then you lose your great rabbis. However, they can't do it. They're not working for you. You're not letting it work for you. And you fit into a whole puzzle. You're part of the puzzle. But if you're not fitting into that slot, what's the point of the puzzle? If a rabbi teaches a Talmud, the purpose is to get it in your heart, not just to wear the costume. Did I ever tell you about the Manchester Rosh Yeshiva that came to my shir in Philadelphia? Sorry, it wasn't in Philadelphia, somewhere in Pennsylvania. I once did a Shabbaton. I'm sure I told you this story. I once did a Shabbaton in some little community. I can't remember where now. And we were staying with a family, and I gave a shir just before Mincha, so we went to this house where we were staying, and then I went to the shul, and just before Mincha I was getting the shir, and in walked the Manchester Rosh Yeshiva, or somebody who looked identical to the Manchester Rosh Yeshiva. But I mean, long white beard, and a big hat, and a langa rekel, and a glowing face, and he sat down opposite me. And so I gave the shir, and I didn't know this is the guy we were staying with. It was his house because I'd met him. He must have still been at work or whatever. So after the shir, he came up and he said to me, "What does Ein Hochinami mean?" And I'm looking at this, obviously tzaddik type Talmud Chacham, and I'm going, "Oh, interesting question. What does Ein Hochinami mean?" Yeah. And I'm thinking, he's asking, we all know how to translate it, but what does it mean? And I'm going, what? And I, gave some sort of floundering answer, because obviously I was answering what I thought was no, but he wanted to know, what does it mean? What's the translation? And it turned out that because when we arrived in this house, you always know what sort of house you're going into by the artwork on the walls, do you not? right? So behind me at the moment, you can see a meant to be Yerushalayim, and this, I mean, tower type stuff. It's like you go to graveyards. You go to Gateshead's graveyard, then all the headstones are all Rosh Hashiva this and Seifer this, and just across the pathway, then there is the Newcastle, which is the adjoining community, their graveyard, and you can see. I've seen this many, deck of cards carved onto because his life or her life was playing bridge, and this is, and you're looking, okay, and this fellow, it turns out, was a Baal Tshuva, because when we came to his house, it was all pictures of Mozart and Beethoven, which is fine. I like Mozart and Beethoven, but so that's where we were staying. This was the Mozart and Beethoven fellow, and so about 2 years before he became frum, and 6 months later, he decided that, well, if he's now frum, he's got to wear the costume of a frum fellow. So it wasn't too far from Lakewood, so he went to Lakewood and he got himself a nice Langereckel, and he grew his beard, and he had a nice big hat, and he looked like the Manchester Rosh Hashiva. And he goes, in those days, that's going back a long time actually, and he used to go every couple times a week and learn with somebody in BMG. And the Bochum all stand up for him when he comes into the room. Because you can look the part. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to. Anyway, but you can look the part. But are you the part? But we can be the part. That's us now. It's not him, it's us. So he says, therefore, if you're not going to take what the Rosh Hashiva give you and make it part of you, then you're in big trouble. After they're giving you the Torah, the V'yadata hayoyim, the pasuk in Devarim, v'oivda hatalmid, after you've been given the V'yadata, now you know it, hu labo ela v'shavasa ela b'becha, and to put it in your heart. It's a pasuk. It's a pasuk in Devarim. Dalet and Lamentes. So he's actually got to make it part of you. And if you don't make it part of you, then what's the point of having it? So it can be, says Rabbi Dessler, as in Eitz Acheres Mesherva Avda Chochmas Chochma Bina Navos V'Tastia. This posuk here in Yeshua. It could be if the generation is in such a state where they cannot and will not make it part of them, then you need a big shake up. And that's when you lose your Rosh Yeshiva and you lose the Mekaymas of Torah. And that can make a person do what they're supposed to do. Yeah. Kain Inyan Streifas is Sefer Torah and Shas. Same when it comes to the times of listening to Sefer Torah, Streifas of Shas. It's an indication to you that your Torah, your approach to Torah is superficial. You're playing the part. You got the costume. You went to Lakewood. You went to some store in Borough Park, but it's not. You never made it part of you. Now that's important. Let's go back to page 133 because Rabbi Dessler says, yes, I want to do it in that order, yeah. He says, Navdak no es ma'asena lo'er habechin hazois. Let's consider ourselves during that, in the light of what we've said. Va'al nechbosh mefeles b'terutzim medamim, don't kid ourselves on. Ela nerkaz es kol ma'atzmeina l'shoyim filipinim hamitzvos b'ayis l'Hashem yisbarach. But let's consider really, what sort of Jew are we? Are we the sort of Jew who wants, and here he quotes the Vilna Gaon, that it's possible, the Vilna Gaon said that the time of coming of the Mashiach is a time when it's totally and utterly superficial stuff. A time when, therefore, if what he said is true, you would expect to live through a tekufa of losing Rosh Yeshiva and losing yeshivas themselves, just like we witnessed, was it 2 days ago or 3 days ago was the anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. This should ring bells. And I don't know if I've ever told you this, is a scary idea, I've got a feeling I did tell you this. I was once visiting a Shiva in Manchester and there was 2 Dayanim there from the Manchester Beis Din, both are Hasidic. And they were saying that in Warsaw, that the Hasidim in a particular place, I won't say which particular Hasidim, carried knives. So it's like a bit like the debates happening in America today. Should Jews carry guns because of the attacks that have gone on? They carried knives, not against the guy. Not against the guy, because the other Hasidim and the other clans just over there, they carried knives. Wow! I mean, you've lost the message. You've lost the path. I spoke in Crown Heights last Thursday. There's a lady who I stayed with, her and her husband, and became very, very dear friends, Lubavitch. He passed away 5 years ago, and And her husband was once telling her about, it was a huge fight, famous fight between Satmar and Lubavitch, lasted a long time. And the husband was going on about, terrible things that the other side had done, broken glass in each other's mikvahs, that sort of stuff. And then going along and copying the hechsher and putting it in pork and stamping it, this sort of stuff. And then she said, "Oh yeah," and this is the wife talking to her husband. And what about the bunch of Bochrim who were driving across from one side of the divide to the other divide and stopped the cops stopped them and they found the trunk full of guns. But the furry hat. I remember, I think I've mentioned this to you before, one of the most disturbing images I ever saw was staying in Sanhedria, just newly married, and I looked out at the beautiful Yerushalayim, the golden stones of Yerushalayim, and there was a big red swastika, spray painted in. A swastika? Yeah, because somebody disapproved of the hechsher he had. So it could all be incredibly superficial. So, how do you know where you are? So, here's a Ramat Sion. Here's what he says in his Sefer Kinyonim, the Memches Kinyonim and Torah's Nivresh Bahem. He's talking about the following thing. So he's talking about three, of course it's based on the Misrachet Mina COVID, so one, keep away from COVID. V'lo magis libay b'talmudai, and don't become a Balgaiva because you've learned tons of stuff. V'ena sameach b'hara, hard to know how to translate that, we'll just leave that one aside for the moment. Gimel kinyonim elim em chabur miyachtov. Says Ramat Sion, these are all linked together. V'em kinyonim shad sad ashaba b'hem kshurim la'anova. Well, they're all, as we said before, humility and anivas is an absolute prerequisite in order to succeed in Torah. And that's they're all, that's the common denominator. Ela. The Gevaret is going to be Shem Medrash Shmuel. I've already explained it from Medrash Shmuel. Ki ha-seder mischalek lebeis madregas. That the seder of achieving, going up and up and up, is in two madregas. One is madregas ha-kinyonim shehem ha-maftechas l'limud Torah. To get the skill, to get the midas, the mentes kinyonim, the basic ingredients to be able to learn and achieve Torah. One. If you don't have these certain midas, humility, etc., which I have in enormous amounts, then you're not going to succeed in Torah. Two. And there's another madriga, and that's to make sure that you don't achieve Torah and then lose it. Because when you reach a new level, just like Rabbi Dessler, just like we were saying before, you get a new fight. There's a new fight. And only if you beat that new fight does the level of Torah that you've achieved before stay with you. So when Rabbi Dessler invites you to consider what it is, what madriga you're standing, then the answer, according to Ramat Sion, is, where are you fighting at the moment? Or, which is really, really scary. So he says here, Silik Shalol Shmo. Bekisya Agrod, this is Rabbi Dessler again, and it's in page 136. And the writings of the Vilna Gaon Zechzav, Shador Akiv is the Mashiach, and the generation of the Mashiach. Yidor Chitzoni, it's a superficial generation. They wear the costume. Kalamar Dor Shemusego Shatochim Bechitzonians. That the Yiddishkeit is literally a costume. It's a Purim spiel. Zahin L'Tzadara, the negative, obviously, Shamasim Haroim Lo Yinova Mitoich Abikorsis Ve'inas Philosophin Kamai B'Daras. And it's not like different times when it was the Greeks and what they had to offer, and that apicorsis which was so seductive. No, we're not talking about that. Ela Machmas Haradifas and Mephazeres Achar Chomorias V'Achar Hanochias. That they want. It's a time when people look for big houses and big cars and 4-car garages and your own private jet or helicopter. And we talk rots on leprikas oil klalis, so that just, fine. Or Benechel v'nishtan ki mocher nimas, and he says very interesting. Nechel v'nishta ki mocher nimas, the English phrase. Eat and drink because tomorrow, and be merry because tomorrow you'll be dead. It's saying here not sad toy, but positively, Shinyani haruchnias bedar yech loikim b'shlichus. Or, in the positive side, that's the negative side. The positive side is they're doing the stuff. But says the Vilna Gaon, they're doing it superficially. Because they live in a frum kehillah. They live in a frum town, which is, well, isn't that good? Well, everything has got negatives and positives, and there's challenges and everything, and there's miles to be living here. Of course we should be living here. But there's a danger as well. So how do you know where you're holding? So said Ramat Seal. Just say, am I having a fight at the moment? Am I struggling with my Yetzer Hara to push that line further back? But if I'm just comfortable with where I am, then that could be well an indication that you're in trouble. Now, the title of this shiur is called The Hope Contained in Hopeless Times. So what do you do when you are blinded to the fact that, guess what? It's all superficial and you haven't seen it. So the most hopeless times of all is when they burnt the Sefer Torah, when the yeshivas are closing. And, but that's the road we're supposed to be going on. But sometimes in the most hopeless times, the message is to tell you that there's hope in that, because now you know what's wrong. As Rav Shach said, if you didn't ask the question why the Churban in Europe happened, there's something wrong with you. A man should ask that question. And that's the greatest example of, if this is what Rabbi Dess is saying is right, of an indication that a generation is wears the costume and carries knives, or even after that is willing to fill their car of boots with guns and go to a shootout with another bunch of different Hasidim here in New York. Then it's just superficiality. In the hopeless times, you're really thinking, gosh, what are we supposed to do? That's what demands of you, for you to fight for it. When it's easy, there's no fighting. That's when you can slip and not realize it really is. You're a penguin. You just bought the costume. So in the time when it's really a struggle, it's the time when it's an invitation for you to fight back. But we're not in that situation just now. But you should be. We should all be able to say, like Daf Yomi guys say to each other, what are you learning at the moment? Where are you up to in the Daf? It's a very nice thing. But there's another question you ask. Where's your ruchnis? What fight have you got with the Yetzer Hara? What madriga are you trying to achieve at the moment? What are you trying to overcome? Is it Kas? Is it Taiba? Is it Gai? What are you trying to achieve? That's an equally valid question. It's probably easier to say I'm a Daf Lamed in Kedushin than to say, well, actually what am I trying to do myself as a Jew? And then if you're struggling with that one, there's a danger. You're in penguin mode. You want to step out penguin mode. That's on the outside to make it the inside.